So I'm not actually leaving YouTube, but I'm mostly leaving YouTube. In the future, what you should expect is just every now and then a video here, but not a lot of experiential videos from now on. There'll be context where I'm talking about the work like I'm going to do today, but I've been really itching to be more experiential and interactive with people. Like there's an itch there. Um, and I could explain why that is. Actually, someone asked me about it, and I might explain it. But that itch has to be scratched, and this is not enough for me to just talk to people who it's a random group of people every day. Not random in the sense that uninvited, it's just that different groups of people. I can't tell whether the folks that are watching on YouTube actually do KI. It does matter whether you do the Killaby inquiries when you're listening to me, because I'm not actually sharing just about standard non-duality. I call it non-duality 2.0, where the non-dual pointers are still very much here and in place, and we're going deeper. And that roughly includes embodiment, and that is a real thing for those people who would like to say, oh, that's just a concept. Everything is a concept. If you were to say that about anything, you'd have to say it about everything. So embodiment points to an actual process that people go through, and just I cannot be convinced otherwise, having worked with now thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are going through it. It's the rule, not the exception. So most people embody the awakening. They don't just snap awake and then suddenly the body's completely translucent and all the traumas and everything stored from the past is instantly pulled out of every tissue. All chronic pain is healed, all illness, addictions just go away in one with one experience. I mean, that's the stuff of folklore. That's the stuff of false myths, basically. Because I used to believe that too, but then I got in this position of being a blessing. I feel blessed, actually, really, to be able to sit with people, like honored, and to have done it for 15 years, one on one, every day. And it's a gift because it just opens my eyes to what's really going on for people, not what the teachings say, not what the teacher went through. And in fact, a lot of the teachers are not being honest anyway. They're not lying. They're just holding back information. So you don't know if there's been any process post awakening if they don't talk about it. So to me, that's very troubling, actually, because there's a lot of. So now that I've done all this work with people, I can see that there are people who would need that context, that would want to know whether their teacher had some serious issue that came up after the awakening, some area of suffering, an addiction, a trauma, something, and you guys don't give much of anything, except for just a few teachers who I know are out there who will be transparent. The point is I feel blessed, truly, to understand now what's really going on. And that the full blown awakening, again, where you're fully embodied in one fell swoop, is extremely rare, even if it's possible at all. I don't know. So the reality is the way things actually unfold, I should say. Reality is a funny word. The way things are actually unfolding for people, the vast majority of people, is that the realization of awareness dawns on them either suddenly or gradually. That realization that they're not their thoughts. Self realization, I guess, is sometimes called. And then there's a process after that where it needs to be fully integrated and embodied. And until then, all sorts of things can come up. So the reason I say that is because it gets kind of old, frankly, interacting in the same way, where I know that this is a very dynamic process, this embodiment, and the conversations can be very dynamic. Like they can be very, like, including a lot of details and nuances and context that are really rich. But you can't do that. I can't do that from like sitting in a video where I can't see you and I can see your comments, but I don't really know anything about you. Like I don't know whether you even do KI. And this is why, if you understand why I'm asking you to follow me, certain people here I'm asking to follow me. With KI, and if you already know it, if you've done it, then this will be just something like you already know. It's like you're not telling me anything new, Scott. But this is why it's problematic to be sharing publicly to people who haven't done KI. It is because if you've done KI, you know, you know what it does. It brings up the unconscious suffering that we're holding in our body, among other things, trauma, repression, and that's really helpful. However, if you're not doing the work, then and you don't know how that happens, you don't know what tools are used to make that happen, then this conversation is not, we're not going to be connecting that much. There's not going to be a real resonance, or when you're listening to me, how could there be if you're not aware of the tools? Because it's the tools, frankly, that have allowed us to go deeper here. It's all the tools. It's not Scott Killaby, it's not Dan McClintock. It's literally these tools that allow all of us to go deeper. So, in using the tools, lots of insights happen. And you know what I mean. Um, Things that you could not see, ways of seeing things arise because you're going so deep into the unconscious. There's also a lot of stuff that we find now that we have sharp tools. There's a whole unconscious network of thoughts that are creating problems in our bodies. And these tools work to explore that. But if you don't know how that works, then there's a disconnect here. It's like I might be saying something, but you can't really hear it or understand it because you haven't used the tools to discover these things for yourself, or you don't have those tools to even discover what I'm talking about. And as I've said so many times, resting as awareness does not do it. Resting as awareness, or being awareness, will show you what's conscious, but it won't show you what's hidden. What's hidden is stuff that's very painful and scary, and survival strategies that we have been using all of our lives, including repression. But there's a bunch of stuff that you find that's hiding, the unconscious, if you want to say. So we need to have a conversation. That's what I'm saying. I want to have a conversation with people who are doing this work. It's just that simple. More than, I really went into deep inquiry. Like, what is it that I want? I said this the other day because I looked at different things. It's like, do I want this work to be really big, like where many people come? Like, and then I thought, well, what would that look like? I don't know if I want that because I like the idea of speaking to an audience that's actually doing the work. That's what gets me up in the morning is, oh, I get to go talk to you guys who are doing the work. So we're connecting in that way. If a whole bunch of people came here, I don't know what I would do. I mean, I would hope that they would actually do the work. But there's a little bit of a disconnect there. Like people are coming to Scott Killaby work and they're reading some of my old books and they're thinking he's a non-dual teacher. And I am doing that, but there is so much more here with these inquiries. And if you've just read my books and you haven't done any of the new tools, again, there can be a disconnect. I had to do inquiry on being open to having this teaching become really popular because I don't want to have any blocks to that. So for those of you who know our work, if I do reverse inquiry, like this work can be extremely popular, like millions of people coming. I get it, yeah. And frankly, there at first were a few no's earlier on when I did inquiry on this way back, and the no's were about privacy, the idea that I wouldn't have as much privacy. But I had to look at that because the privacy went to a long story of needing to hide. See how like nuanced all this is. Growing up, needing to hide from bullies, hiding my drug addiction, getting used to hiding, and then that provides this really private life and private space. So then in inquiry, the idea that all these people were going to come was challenging. But then that fell away. So I'm open to the popularity. But once you open to the popularity, the idea of it, like you don't have any blocks to it anymore. It's like, is that what we really want here? And then I went into inquiry on what do I really want. And that's when this movement came to send you guys to a Facebook room where I'm building up an audience of people that I hope are doing the work or they're in pre-contemplation stage. You're seriously considering doing the work. And then for everyone else, I'll do some videos every now and then out here, but I'll probably speak in a way that they can understand. And then so my hands are somewhat tied here, I feel, because I want to go deep and speak even more about nuances. And I want to do experiential work with people, but I cannot do that here where people are coming who don't have the tools, they don't have the context. If they start doing work with me, this is a real thing here, so to speak. A can of worms can open. I've seen it happen where you do this work and you open yourself to something that you didn't know was there. And ultimately, that's great because discovering that can end in freedom from that. But if you don't have the tools, and then here it is, and now it's affecting your life, okay, a trauma, a repression, something, and you don't know what to do with that. You can't put it back, can't put the cat back in the bag. And if you don't have tools to go deeper, here you are, stuck with that. And then if there's no connection between us, if we don't have sessions or if you can't reach me, this is not something I'm interested in at all. I'm not interested in people experiencing that. So these videos may be watered down somewhat in terms of KI. I may not be going deep on that. I don't mean watered down. What I mean is I'm not going to do much experiential work here from now on, unless it's like awareness, pointing to awareness or something, but not experiential work with inquiry here. That's going to happen in the new space. But I wanted to come on YouTube and just be really clear about what my intentions are, where my vision is. So you can, if you come along, you'll know at least. Because my vision is very different than it was 5 years, 10 years ago. My vision about how this work can help people and what this work even is has changed drastically. So I'm in a completely different place, basically. And beyond popularity, what's more interesting to me is an honest discussion with people who are earnestly doing the work. Like, that's exciting. So follow me if you wish. Go to Facebook, my main page, Scott Killaby. At the top, you'll see a pinned post that says, "Hey, come to my new profile." So this new profile, if you go there, that's the group of people that eventually we're going to move to some space that allows a lot more interaction with me and a lot more interaction with the facilitators on my site. So that's exciting. Like, we're going to build something where you can walk into that virtual world or step into that virtual world, and you're going to be having videos from me, which are live, Zoom, more Zoom, where I'm looking at you and talking to you. I want more of that interaction, and also some pre-recorded content. So just playing with some ideas, like what would it be like if I had some videos in this private space where you turn on the video and I start facilitating you with KI. And so I lead you through the whole process, allowing you to stop the recording as you're looking at something. I've actually done that in the past, but not with KI. I did it with the living inquiries. So these are some of the ideas, because you can see what it is that we want on this side is more interaction, more experiential work, a deeper, more mature conversation that just isn't about just pointing to awareness. That's still a part of it, but wholly inadequate to meet the body's deep suffering programming. So those are the kind of things to expect. And let me say another thing here that I just want to start giving a little bit of a shout out to. As I said before, I'm trying to create a private space, but I need to be free. I want to be free to talk to you in that space. Right now, I'm not really free to do that. I do sessions from 10 a.m., 10:30 Central Time in the morning until about 4, virtually every day. I do have a day off or two, or a day and a half. But with that kind of schedule, I can't be available. This is why I come on early morning, but what I'm looking to do is to pull away from sessions a little bit and then be able to be more available to the whole group of you that come with me, um, interacting, question answers, live videos. And if you've been listening to me the last few months, you know that one of the reasons for that is that I learned myself how deep you have to go, how deep I had to go in order to heal the pain of my spine condition. I know because I went through that I needed to have people around me who at least understood the process that I was going through, because it can be pretty lonely process when you're in the midst of very serious pain or illness. You're uprooting old trauma and anger repression, which compounds everything at first, because now you're beginning to deal with deeply emotional stuff while you're physically suffering. And then there are people out there that are going to be going through that. Having gone through that, I understand the need for support and skill development. That's the other thing, developing skills. It just woke me up, so to speak, to how deep the work can go, but then how we do need context and support and skill development to go there. So that's the vision. That's what we're moving towards. And part of this, my time being freed up, is that I have to pull back from sessions. So I want to encourage you to check out some of the facilitators on my site. And these folks right here, when I look at these faces, these are the faces. Go to killaby.com and click on the menu at the top and then find a facilitator. And then you see my mug right there first. But if you scroll down, let me just talk a little bit about these folks, because what's so funny is that some people think, oh, I've got to work with Scott Killaby. I don't want to work with one of his facilitators. And you're missing out. I'm telling you, because these folks are skilled. To me, these are the ones that are on my side are the ones that are staying with me in this conversation. They're coming right along with me, and in some ways, kind of helping to lead the conversation, the development. Dan, especially, but others. These are people that are very active in our community in a variety of ways. They are plugged in to this whole thing and super skillful. I would not see, I have a different approach to putting people on my site now. In order just to be on my site, we have to have a conversation. I have to know where you're at in your process, the clarity that you have, the stuff that you're still working on. And so when I give a check mark to somebody to be on my site these days, that means this person is grade A, prime facilitator. Let me just talk a little bit about this, because going forward, again, I'm going to want to do sessions less, and I'm going to want you to work with some of these people so that I can come on here and interact with more people that need that kind of interaction and maybe can't do sessions or can't do sessions forever. There'll come a time when, even if you're doing sessions right now, that's going to end, but you're probably going to be still very interested in doing the work. So that's what I'm trying to become available. That's why I'm trying to become more available to you. Julianne, let me start with Julianne. That's Julianne. Julianne has been with me from the beginning. I call her the trainer of trainers. She literally has been, so we used to have phone calls where she was suffering, and I won't tell you the details of that. Early on, she came suffering, like really unable to work, kind of suffering. She's just blossomed into this force. She is co-owner of the Killaby Center. She's been training people in living inquiries and the Killaby inquiries for probably close to 10 to 12 years, at least. She knows this work like the back of her hand. It's like it's just second nature to her at this point. She not only trains, but she leads groups on group and self-support, excuse me, peer support and self-support. So she's extraordinarily good at teaching you how to do the work on your own, which is important when you're working with any facilitator. I've been with her through all her realizations. They're genuine. I won't talk about it because that's her thing, but she's had very powerful shifts for sure. Um, okay, the second is Dan McClintock. Okay, so Dan, if you don't know Dan already, because I mentioned him a lot, let me just talk about him a little bit. Dan is my co-developer. Like we literally co-developed the Killer Bee Inquiries. It wasn't like I developed it and then just tagged his name on to be nice. Like he was an integral part of the development of this entire thing. Extremely intuitive, extremely insightful, um, extremely skillful. When I have an issue that I need help on, Dan is the one I go to. And I probably am facilitated by Dan at least once every week or 2 weeks. He's a soft, gentle soul. You feel comfortable with him from the get go. And at the same time, don't be fooled by that soft, gentle soul because he will take you radically deep, just like Julianne and all of them, actually. Darby. I don't think I have it. I want to show a picture of Darby. But the picture's not showing up here. Okay, here's Darby, the one in the middle. Darby has been like one of those star pupils. She came through and she had this radical readiness to look at a whole bunch of stuff. And we just stood back and were like, who is this? Like she literally came and just shined through the program. I have now developed a personal relationship with her, a friendship, a connection is very rich. She's earnest. She she's not afraid to look at anything, and if she is, she'll address that. I've seen that. Um, she has quite a story actually, and all of them do. They have a background that's interesting, and you should learn a little bit more about them. But what I know with Darby, she's one of the people that I've checked off, along with Dan and Julianne, have checked off that they can work with chronic pain or repression, which is, if many of you know, that's a challenging area. Like you have to be skilled to do that. It's a certain skill. Darby has that. She's checked off on that. Um, totally trustable as a facilitator. Now, Alina has had a very deep shift. I'll show you Alina. Um, very deep non-dual shift. Many of them have. I just want to highlight this aspect of Alina's experience because when you're listening to her, you can tell that she's speaking from direct experience. And she's probably likely going to become a teacher on her own in some way. I mean, she really already is. She's a leader. She's so richly in tune with relationships. She's a mother and a wife, and she's tuned into that. In fact, she and I are thinking about doing a workshop on relationship because she grokks the inquiries very deeply with regard to the dynamics of relationship. She also has a lot, like an amazing amount of wisdom and experience to share with you about the post awakening process. So there's the awakening to awareness, which is treated like the Holy Grail in some ways, but she's going to tell you that there's a richer discovery that happens after that. I don't want richer, but a very rich discovery post awakening. And she can explore, she can share where she's been with all that and how she dealt with it. And KI came into her life and really cleared a lot of things up. All these folks are very super excited and enthused about this work. That's another reason I have them on my side because that's contagious. When you're around people who are earnest, um, it's just contagious. Like I love surrounding myself with these people. All of them are like that. Alina, you can't go wrong. June Jackson. These are not random people that I put on my site, guys. This person has just come into KI and essentially created the personal mentorship program along with other things. She has such a creative spirit. So she just organized and structured that whole thing. And if you've been in that program, everybody that goes through that program gives it a thumbs up. Like it's an amazing program. And she created that. So what it is many weeks first learning how to self-inquire. So they start there, just learning how to support yourself and then also learning how to support each other, a peer support. This training does that. And then at the end of the training, there's a section where you can practice to become a certified facilitator. So it literally, this is the most robust program we've ever had, the personal mentorship, because of how deep it goes into teaching people to look on their own, and then at the end, teaching them how to facilitate others for certification. It's a brilliant creation. And she has the kind of the mind or the experience that's always creating. And this is why Dan and I keep her very close. In fact, on any given day, me and Dan and June are texting something to each other about this work. So she's one of the people that, if she's not developing something new, she's one of the first people to hear the new developments, and then she brings it into the personal mentorship program and really into the training programs. I can't put words to that, how valuable she is. Diane Adams, love her. She was a client at the Killaby Center, and she struggled greatly with trauma and an addiction. If you've ever been facilitated by Diane, I don't need to say anything else because she helps me. She's a training assistant. So one-on-one sessions, one-on-one training that I do, Diane comes in with that and assists me by giving 4 sessions to the trainee in addition to mine. And what's interesting is that once people start having sessions with Diane, they're like, I want more sessions with Diane. Because a lot of times in training, I'm training them and I don't get to facilitate them very much. Well, I do, but not as much as sessions. So they get a lot of that from Diane. And not only are they impressed by her, but they usually want to go back and continue working with her. Diane has been in let's just say, a very close friendship with me and Dan, because when she was at the Killaby Center, Dan and I were helping her, and she was one of the first clients who came under the new model of recovery. As we developed at the Killaby Center, she was one of the first ones. So she understands the nuances of all that, like as deeply as Dan and I do. So this friendship between the three of us has resulted in Diane having a very high skill level, like very high. I don't even know how to say it, how skilled she is. It's amazing to have watched her go from a client who stumbled even with resting as awareness sometimes, and very, very much stumbled with inquiry, to now she's a master at it. Diane would be one person I would go to be facilitated, frankly, because she's been in the know with Dan and I. So everything that we've developed, she just is right there with us. She helps us with the new model of recovery a lot. Sumitra. Sumitra has been around this work for a long time. She was at 9 years plus experience as a facilitator. That includes the living inquiries before the Killaby inquiries. Sumitra has the kind of soul where when you're with her, you feel held, you feel loved, you feel the peace coming from her. But more than that, I think you feel nurtured by her. She's a nurturing soul. And so when you're being guided by her, it feels like that. It feels like you're being loved. I've heard people say that. She's just been a rock solid part of these communities forever. I mean, wherever I go, she comes and she learns the skills and she goes deeper. She's been leading a group for, I think, several years on eating disorders, using inquiry on that. She has an incredible amount of insight and experience with addiction or eating issues as they relate to trauma, and as the eating is part of the unfolding of the awakening process that addictions are. She's very tuned into that. She's also taught yoga, meditation, and other things, so she has lots of experience. Tim Gallagher is fairly new to the listing on the site. He's one of the last ones to be, or the most recent ones to be added. There's Tim. So Tim is a serious student of this work. When we trained him, he was one of the only ones that would come back to me and Dan, and he would ask these very insightful questions that you would only ask if you're doing the work deeply. Like, there'd be no way to even understand how to ask a question. So we knew that Tim was taking this work very deeply through training. He was just recently certified, but this is how quickly he learns and develops skill. Because after certification, then he went to study the chronic pain repression stuff and became a master at that. And so we put him on the site because we want people who are a master at that deeper somatic work. And he's certainly become super skilled. All he needs is just more experience, and he's going to be, and that's just a matter of time for him. Now, the last one is Alec Rodriguez. So, Alec, I always say everyone should have an Alec. Alec is not just a facilitator. The stuff that you see me doing out in the world, Alec is basically behind almost all of it. So he's the guy that takes care of all communications when I do interviews. He runs the whole calendar. He runs my entire system. Essentially, he's my right-hand person. And he's amazingly intuitive when it comes to this work. And just recently has gone so much deeper than ever before and has this like new enthusiasm around the work, which is very contagious. And even though he's doing a lot of work with me, administrative work, he's really itching to get out there and facilitate you more. And he's been working with Dan, and so he's got his skills are like super refined at this point. That's why he's on the site. Alec is one of the facilitators in the personal mentorship program. So this is how much we trust Alec, and several others are, again, uh, part of that program. June created it. Alec is a part of it. Alina is a part of it. And Darby is. So again, these are the folks that are working. If you want to know who I recommend, if you can't work with me, it's these people. I recommend these folks. And they were hand chosen. So there you go. I'm going to come back on here, either here, actually, no, I'm going to go into the private Facebook room. So remember, if you enjoy these talks, and today was just a talk about facilitators, but if you enjoy the work and hearing about it and going deeper with it, just to let you know, I will be on YouTube, but it'll be, after a few weeks here, it'll be much, much less. So if you're interested in continuing to be engaged with it, go to the new Facebook profile so that you can be invited to the final place where we land and go deeper there, including much more experiential work through video. See you guys.